All right, we're back on another episode of Salient Points. This one's 125 for October 24th, 2023. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of what, Dalan?
The speak and spell.
The speak and spell. Is that little green? No, not green. I'm thinking my colors are messed up, man. Is that the little orange machine where you press the buttons and it's talking?
Yes, sir. Okay. I feel like you need hooked on phonics right now.
I feel like that was advanced technology, man. Like back in fucking 1983 or whenever that came out. All right, well, I'm Carlos Macias. Dalan Kirkwood from Up in the Mountains. Thank you for joining me, sir.
It's Monday for me.
It's definitely been off wax right now. It's been pretty rough, man. They was like, let's meet up at 7:30, and then he's like, hold on. I gotta go pick someone up real quick. So it's been pretty rough, but we made it, Dalan. But you're here. I see all your characters are up. What are we sponsored by today? Japanese gummy bears? Is that what it is?
Oh, no, sir. What you see here is a big goal. Okay. But if you talk about what's on my napkins, there's 7-Eleven gummy bears. You can leave that alone.
Oh, not even the Haribos, huh? Okay.
All right, fine. We're sponsored by 7-Eleven today. Because these are the 7-Eleven gummy bears.
Okay, interesting. With real fruit, huh? Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel. Don't look at it, Dan. You know it says 0% fruit.
I had to look.
You know it says 0% fruit on there. What's the percentage? Just to so people know what's going on.
Is there a section that even says
the
that?
Nutrition, right?
I'd not even say.
Nutrition area on the top of the nutrition box. The 0% fruit juice. Nothing.
Okay. Nothing. Doesn't say anything like that.
They did not. What did they mix them with? Imagine what the mixture.
It's
the
artificial flavors for sure. The word fruit is nowhere on this bag. Oh, here we go. Tasting fruit flavors.
There you go. It tastes like
the only time.
It tastes like it. Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel. Thank you for joining us as well, sir. We got a nice little pod here, I think, going. We're gonna start off first with the correction. Me and Dale, by the way, he's on a trip. I don't know. Did he say it on wax? I hope he said no. He's on a trip. But what a show to miss, Dale, when we're like, we need to be corrected on, because we predicted Mario Wonder to be in the mid-80s. That thing's 93 and 92 on Metacritic and OpenCritic. So I kind of like it, though. I don't take it as like we were wrong, which we were. Me and Dale specifically, but I take it like that's kind of nice, because I was thinking that the critics were like too jaded, too like, I've seen what you guys have reviewed the other Mario games, the other 2D Mario games. You haven't been that hyped for it, but people are pretty hyped for this game. I got a little bit of impressions on it. I think you do too, Dalan, I believe, maybe. But when we get to what you've been playing, we'll talk.
It is in my mailbox. I still need to grab it.
Oh, you have to go down the street. You could have, right now that you left your house, you could have went and got the game, Dalan, at the mailbox.
Nah, man, the mailbox is closed by the time I get out of work. I gotta go on my lunch break.
These are mountain man adventures, man. Like, if you're a mountain man, you can't. Like, next time I get my mail, Dalan, I'm gonna walk over to it, and I'm like, Dalan has to do way more than this to get his mail. I just like walk down this.
Hey, you might have the convenience of going to your mailbox at the end of your driveway, but
true.
I have the convenience of not being set on fire in the middle of the summer, because it's 103 degrees where you are at, and I'm 80 degrees, so I'm cool.
It's called AC, man. It's called AC units, Dalan. But
still have to leave the house.
It's cool. You do. Oh, that's when you feel it. The other. All right, so we'll get to that. That's quick correction on that. But I did like, my brother Jonathan. He did kind of bring up. He listens to these podcasts, these Spanish language podcasts, which I think they're great. They're pretty fun. But they're very like Nintendo stands. Like, they're very like anything Nintendo's like, what the fuck? Spider-Man might look great, but Nintendo plays beautifully and it's buttery smooth. And I'm like, I kind of agree with that, sort of. But at the same time, it's like, we love our graphics. But he did come out and say, what is Nintendo King of 2023? We're looking at The Legend of Zelda, right? Tears of the Kingdom got a 96 on Metacritic. Mario Wonder's at 93. Pikmin 4 at 87. So that's quite a good record. And I'm glad that he brought it up, because to me, it's like, when we do these Game of the Year podcasts, which is some of my favorite podcasts to do of the year, honestly, I gotta remember to think about these mans. But at the same time, if you're not remembering them, right, it's like there's something else that kind of took you by, whatever it is, something else to you was like, this grabbed my attention more, even though Nintendo's great. Luis, what do you got some thoughts on this, man? I know my brother Jonathan is kind of like, Nintendo is the greatest. But what do you think, man?
I mean, it is. Nintendo has always sort of been solid, right? They've never had, or at least not that I can really remember, like a game that's bombed or really been bad, especially in recent history.
Yeah.
So, not to say that every game they come out with is like game of the year contender material, but it is a good
Yeah.
game, right? It's a
Yeah.
solid game. It's a solid experience. You know what you're getting. You're getting your values worth
Yeah.
out of these things. But yeah, there are some that you kind of play. I'll play them and then I just kind of like forget about it months down the line. Like, oh yeah, that's a game I played, but I don't. It's not necessarily forgettable. It's just something that kind of I think even Deo might have tweeted this recently, but he's like Nintendo's having like a sleeper year
Yeah.
where they've come out with really good titles, but they're not really like kind of making this huge splash.
I don't know. Do you think part of it is because it's kind of like on the Switch, that's a hybrid like handheld on your TV? But to be honest, like for me, I don't play the Switch on my TV. I never do. Like to me, it's literally this is the game system that I throw in my backpack when I go to work and on my break or whatever I'll play. But maybe do you think that has something to do with it? That I don't know how you play, but for me, it's a handheld. It's a beautiful handheld. It plays beautiful games.
I use it like they intended the Switch as a hybrid thing. Sometimes it's on TV, sometimes it's handheld. It kind of just depends on where I'm at.
Okay.
I don't know necessarily if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I guess it could be. I didn't really think of that though.
Yeah. And they have had a couple stumbles though. Detective Pikachu Returns came out to middling reviews, and I know those aren't like their tentpole titles, right? Maybe that's kind of what you meant, right? Like the big games. But that one wasn't so great, and then the last Pokemon one with performance issues all over the place, right? So they've had a couple stumbles, but for the most part, yeah, right? They're pretty much a hit maker, right? They got evergreen titles, and they're never dropping price. Dalan, what do you think, sir? What do you make of this, man? You gotta consider Nintendo for your game of the years? You're gonna keep them in mind as far as the Mario Wonder and Zelda and stuff?
The problem between Nintendo's games and pretty much every other system when it comes to game of the year is that they make these smaller games that can like have a hook for you want to keep going back and playing those games. So those games can be really fun, but not as memorable. Like just taking as an example, even though Mario Kart is huge, you're like, all right, I know exactly what Mario Kart is. I'm gonna hold down the button and I'm gonna go around this track and I'm gonna try and beat everybody. But it doesn't give you a story. It doesn't implant anything in your brain to let you actually keep those thoughts in your mind to actually go out and say, this was an awesome game. You have to get it. I'm not going to go around doing that. Okay. I'm going to say Mario Kart is fun. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, and I know it's fun. They come out with another Mario Kart. I know it's going to be fun. I'm waiting for the next Smash Brothers, but I don't know when that's going to happen. However, I was thinking about the fact that Luis was talking about, I can't think of any games that they really had any misfires with. Obviously, there was the one that you said, Carlos, but the first one that popped in my head was Balan Wonderland or whatever.
That wasn't a Nintendo game. Dalan, come on.
I know. That was
yeah.
like one of the main things that they were pushing for a while, and when it dropped, it was just terrible.
But why are you associating it with Nintendo? That's a Yuji Naka joint, man. And that man's in jail. That man's in jail right now.
It's hard not to. But, I mean, for Nintendo itself, and I know we have said this on this podcast multiple times, don't worry about Nintendo. They're fine. Whatever's happening, they're fine. They got that war chest that will never exhaust.
Yeah, but, we're speaking on quality, and I think maybe you're onto something in the sense that it's like, we know their quality. You never doubt Nintendo, right? But yeah, anyway, so that's one of the things I kind of want to mention. Like, let's try to, at least for me, I'm like, all right, I'll keep them in mind by the end of the year. I gotta have beat Tears of the Kingdom, which is a long game, right? Wonder, I'm pretty sure I'll beat. Pikmin 4, I might get back to. But anyways,
did Tears of the Kingdom come out this year?
It came out this year. Came out this year.
That was their biggest splash this year. It overshadowed everything else they made.
It's definitely up there. It's actually even like we're gonna talk about the sales on Spider-Man, but Zelda's like up there, like 1 or 2 best selling, right? Like of the year. So it's funny because I did go pick up the Spider-Man 2. It came out the same day as Mario Wonder, and I asked the guy at GameStop. I was like, this is like, I showed up late and they were upset at me because I showed up like 10 minutes after the doors were closed, and I was like, hey man, I'm here to pick up my game, and they were like, weird, like, because my experience from Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was that the line was around the block and it wasn't like 45 minutes after, because I usually what I do is I'll show up, but I'm like, let me wait till this line dies down. I don't want to stand in line for an hour and a half or whatever. But Zelda was ridiculous. For Spider-Man and Mario Wonder, I just walked in the door. Like, there was no line. It was like, so, but it's up there, man. And I know, so that's one of the things I want to talk about Nintendo's quality, right? But also, quality doesn't always, translate to sales, right? Because, Spider-Man 2 basically beat Mario, and we have the sales from UK, or we don't have the sales, but we have that it beat them because they do week-to-week sales over there. And according to Eurogamer, chart analysis from GameIndustry.biz's Chris Dring shows physical sales of Spider-Man 2 down significantly from Spider-Man 1, though the shift in console generations and ongoing push towards digital sales makes proper comparisons difficult, which is to say that's just kind of like the comparison between one and this one, but it did beat out Mario, right, anecdotally, and as far as Mario as far as Spider-Man 2 is concerned, it sold 2.5 million copies in one day, and it's quote unquote the fastest selling PlayStation game. But as Steven Totillo over at Axios said, he compared Spider-Man 1 to like 3.3 million in 3 days, Last of Us Part 2 4 million in 3 days, Ragnarok God of War Ragnarok 5.1 million in 5 days, which is kind of funny because that shows like Sony and PlayStation like, this is the fastest selling. Like, wait a minute, these other games are, but they play with the numbers, right? Basically they're kind of playing with the numbers. It's like in 24 hours we sold 2.5, but these other games sold different in different numbers. So you kind of do the math. You got to do a little bit of math there to figure out which one is the fastest selling. But you scoffed a little bit, Dalan. Please to interject.
You scoffed at the fact that you might just actually need a speak and spell in order to get you through these sentences.
Potentially. I don't know. Yeah, I'll go back.
At some point you said Faust. I'm like, Faust.
Oh, my bad. Fast. Look, that was okay. There was one a couple episodes ago where I was like, oh yeah, they're right. They're right on that one. This one, it's more towards the Dalan being an asshole part than like being right. Like a couple episodes ago, like, oh, they were right. I did really say the incorrect thing. The other thing is, of course, part of the conversation that came up was that it's supposed to be a short game. Spider-Man 2 is supposed to be a short game, Dalan, but they did ask Brian Intihar, the senior creative director, as far as like, oh, the game cost, how much the game costs, which is a $70 game versus the length. He said, quote, I feel confident in saying that it's worth it. And this is according to BBC Newsbeat via Eurogamer. Quote, for us, it really comes down to the experience we want to deliver with the quality we want to hit. He said, obviously, there's a certain level of, hey, someone's going to spend this money on a game, so we want to give them the experience that's worth it. Intihar closed by saying that, quote, no matter how long, end quote, Insomniac's game is, it is the developer's job to make sure that it's worth the money, it's worth the investment. Which it's always funny when these conversations come up. I think we've talked about it on Wax before, but to me, it's kind of like, you kind of want to get your money's worth, but I don't ever do it like $10 should equal 10 hours or $20 should equal this many hours, right? To me, it's always like, it definitely comes down to the quality of the game. And sometimes to me, like, this is an amazing experience. The graphics, the gameplay, everything comes together, and I don't regret it. And so far, I don't regret Spider-Man 2. But what about you, Dan? What's your thoughts on this?
I think this is another one of those things that we touched base on, maybe even more briefly than other things, is that even if the game has low quality, like it could be an 8-bit game, it could be a 16, 32-bit game, I don't care. Mm-hmm. If the game is not fun, why are you putting it on the market? Did you play this game as a developer yourself? Mm-hmm. I mean, by itself, that's fine. I know that most developers play their own games, but there are those times where you see a game hit the market, you go and get it, and you're playing it, you're like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking, even trying to release this game in this state?
And I think you're alluding to a game we're going to talk about in a little bit, Dalan. You talk about the King Kong game a little bit. That came out. We'll bring it up in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think in the past you've kind of brought it up in that sense, Dan. I don't know.
Well,
specifically.
I think the last time I brought it up was Cyberpunk 2077. You knew the game wasn't ready. Yeah. You knew the game wasn't ready. You knew where all your focus went when you were making this game, and you still launched it because you had a window and a deadline that you needed to meet. You already surpassed it. You pushed back the time that the game was going to release anyway, and then you still. Well,
but that's also like on a quality like perspective, Dan. I guess this is more like people will say is like, if I paid $60 for this game, it better last me 300 hours. right? That's kind of what this is saying. And he's like, we brought this game out and it's worth the money. It's worth the $70 or whatever.
That was the other one I was going to bring up. Was the best example I could give for anybody who knows it really. And I know me and you know it, Carlos. And Luis has been a part of this. Destiny. Is it worth it? That game is beautiful. That game plays smoothly.
Yeah.
But you could run through that content in like 8 hours. It's a lot of content in 8 hours.
Yeah.
But it's $100.
But it's high quality content. But yes, I think that's the closest that I've come to like. I haven't gotten to the point where like I'm not gonna do it. But it is a little like I'm paying $100.
It's right on the cusp of not being worth it.
It's high quality content. I want to play every season of it, so let me just drop the cash on it. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things. And it's fair in some senses, but I think in another way, it's like look what you're getting, man. This is a high quality ass game, right? Like it has replay value and all this other stuff. So, but yeah,
they're
Spider-Man
still working on it. They're listening to their players.
Yeah,
it helps when the developers now I can't speak.
All of a sudden, we
when
need
the
a speaking
developers
spell.
are there. Yes, when the developers are there to actually try and help improve the game that they may have missed some steps on, that definitely helps.
Well,
but when it's a straight release and you're like, give us feedback, and then you're like, nah, that's the game we gave you. We're just gonna try better next time, and they don't.
And Spider-Man 2, they got a couple things that I just want to mention real quick that they're working on. By the end of the year, they said they're going to add a new game plus and a mission replay feature that's coming out later this year. That's kind of on the fun side. On the not so fun side is that Insomniac did put a Cuban flag in the apartment of Miles Morales, or the house where he lives at, instead of the Puerto Rican flag, which he is that man. But I do, it's kind of interesting because I think it's one of those things where, you talk about representation in the industry and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of one of those things that this is one of those moments where you're like, if they had a Puerto Rican developer or a Cuban developer, they would have been like, hold on, that's the incorrect flag. That is the wrong flag. Whereas I think, and I don't think they did it maliciously, it's just a mistake, right? But I feel like that's one of those things where it's like, had they had someone that's well represented or something like a Cuban or Latino, like, wait, hold on, let's give that a moment. It just kind of went through all the development cycle, and then now it's like when it launches, people are like, hold on, that's incorrect. But they said they're gonna fix it.
I can say this: whoever was putting that up, simple Google search would have helped.
True, and I would think in the original Miles Morales they had the right flag. I would think. Cross-reference it or something, but anyways, look, they're fixing it. They're gonna get that out of there. But we'll see, man. This is kind of one of those when you're like, the whole representation, Latinx, and messing all that kind of stuff. Like, just shut up, man. You guys, just shut up. All right,
Could have Googled it.
Could have Googled it. All right, next up, I hope Lise, we're in quick takes now. Lise, I hope you can help me with this one because I've heard this lady's name before. Connie L. Booth leaves PlayStation. She's been around the PlayStation kind of industry since going back to the Crash Bandicoot era. She's kind of a business executive, started around that time. She's actually a Hall of Famer for the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, which is, I always thought it was the coolest thing. It was that little thing that GoldenEye, if you remember GoldenEye, I know I've mentioned it before, that's the first time I saw it, the little trophy thing of Game of the Year is from the AIAS. Go ahead, Dalan, please.
I have found that there are a number of people who don't know what Crash Bandicoot is, so just so people are aware, Crash Bandicoot is early PS1 era.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
Hey, those are the kind of interruptions I like, Dalan. Not, you need a speaking spell. That one's good. That's a good interruption. All right, so that's fair because, maybe they don't. I would think he's...
there are just some people that just don't know.
Maybe they don't.
For me, it hurts my heart to know that people don't know what it is, but for anybody listening, especially if you're a youngster, there you go.
Does it hurt your soul because it makes you feel how old and close to death you are, Dalan?
Dude, every time I think about when Back to the Future came out, I'm still like, oh man, I'm old.
It's Back to the Future.
20 years ago, man. That was 45 years ago.
Now it's Back to the Future. Is that one of the movies where, like, if you went back in time enough times, it's the time you're at now or something? Do you know what I'm talking about? They did the little memes of like, it's like we've passed that amount of time that you thought that was old back then or whatever it was.
Yes.
That's one of the memes. Luis, what do you make of this, sir? You got any more kind of details or little background?
I cannot help you out with this.
Oh.
I was merely just going to comment on the fact that it's either a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to take it as a good thing that I have no idea who this woman is.
Yeah.
So that either means she did a phenomenal job or she did a terrible job. And I'm going to
Connie,
lean with
we're
she did a
sorry,
phenomenal
or
job.
we hate you.
Well, she wasn't, she didn't make big, she wasn't splashy as far as like Jim Ryan flying to Brussels in his PJ, right? Like he wasn't that. So, from what I understand, she's a well-respected lady and she's leaving and, that's fine. And David Jaffe apparently he has a video out there kind of explaining the background of Connie Booth. But yeah, so good luck to her. And it's cool to see. Hall of Famer, goes all the way back to the Crash Bandicoot era. But it kind of goes like to what Dalan was saying a little bit, right? It's like, we're getting older and the industry's getting older and it's like things are passing. Time is passing. Father Time is undefeated. The other thing we have on here is that there was a point, Dalan, where the Independence Day writer, I forget what his name is, Emmerich or something like that, I believe he wrote Independence Day, but he pitched the space game to Bethesda, and that was a while ago. So the development of that was pretty much a disaster. Min-Max did a video, kind of a documentary type stuff on it. But what do you think, Dan? Do you think this guy could have they could have made that work out? I guess the Independence Day writer working on space game.
Hey man, it is hard to translate film to game and game to film. We have talked about this as well. But the fact that the man who did Independence Day, if he was the one who really wrote that entire script and not just, shopped it with other people or shop worked it with other people, then I'd be like, yeah, have at it. But he shop worked it with a bunch of other people without having all those other people with him. It's gonna fall flat. Period. It's gonna fall flat. He was not the only writer of Independence Day.
yeah. So we finally got a space game from Bethesda, right? It's in Starfield, so at least they kind of worked that out.
We're fine.
It's fine that we didn't even know about this, but thank you, Min-Max, for kind of letting us know that we could have seen something from the Independence Day guy. We will be getting, so it's confirmed that the Fallout live action show is coming out April 12th, 2024. I didn't look at it. I'm going on media blackout, but I have no expectations, I will say. I'll make sure to be there and check it out. But yes, Fallout live action show, April 12th, 2024. And then besides that, we were just speaking about Starfield. That was actually the best-selling game in the U.S. September 2023, despite being on Game Pass. So that's kind of interesting. And this is via Matt Piscatella on Twitter. He's a Circana analyst. He said, quote, Starfield was the best-selling game of September, instantly becoming the 7th best-selling game of 2023 year to date. Starfield ranked as the best-selling title of the month across both Xbox and PC, with PC being its lead sales platform. It kind of goes to show you, man, people were pretty hyped about this game, right? And I think it probably helped the early access stuff, like if you buy it, and because I was gonna do not necessarily the early access, but what was I think I would have done. I was going on a trip. I was going to Hawaii right at the time, and I was like, you know what, whatever.
Did you get a watch though?
I didn't get a watch. I didn't get anything, man. But it's kind of cool to see, because really, as we've talked about it here on the podcast, I think it's that Game Pass basically makes it to, like, for Xbox gamers to, like, what do I need? Why do I ever need to buy anything? Right? Why do I ever need to buy games? Right? They even, I think, there was I might have mentioned it on podcast, but I think, like, for example, The Quarry sold decently on PlayStation, but on Xbox it sold only like 10,000 copies. So it's like, definitely people are conditioned, don't buy games. So it's pretty damn cool to see Starfield, which is a Game Pass day one game, was the best-selling game of September, given all these, all these other kind of anecdotes and stats. Dalan, what do you make of this, sir?
Well, you pretty much took one of the words right out from under my feet. Okay. It's the fact that we had that debate of, can these games really survive being placed on Game Pass day one? And Starfield shows that it can happen if you're big enough. If you got if you have the star power to come along with your game as it's being launched on Game Pass, that's great. But there are these other games that, they're trying to make their way in the world. Yeah. They're trying to actually be out in the open. They're trying to actually meet new people. But it's hard to meet new people when you say, all right, we got everything free.
Yeah.
Over there, you got to pay. But over here, we got everything free. Everybody's going to go to the free stuff. Consumers are greedy. We want free stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right in the sense that this is just really like what do you call it? This is not like the norm, or this is like an exception. Exception to the rule is Starfield, right? It's not gonna be every game on there because everything else, like, I'll take it for free, man. This is like a mid-ish game. I'm not gonna buy Starfield, right? So
I'll give you an example of it's not gonna be every game. Well, it was Avengers. When Avengers dropped free, straight free on the Game Pass, nobody downloaded it.
Well, that's a little bit different story. It didn't like show up day one and like sold super well, right? But you have like negative ones too. Well, I don't know if it's sort of, yeah, I guess so. Like what is it, Outer Worlds or Outlanders, the co-op game we were playing. Outriders. Those guys have yet to get any like sells monies from Square Enix or whatever after putting it on Game Pass and PlayStation and all that. So you got all these things that is like some just kind of fall flat and they just don't make it, right? But it's cool. But I think you're right. This is like an exception, right? Rather than the rule where it's like Starfield was just that huge. Like I said, I mentioned it before. Starfield was so huge that like the trophy guy that I follow did a achievement guide on Starfield where it's like he never does achievement guides. So it was that huge that this guy's like, I gotta get in on this. So there you go. Number one selling game in September. The other thing is Phil Spencer. So the Activision Blizzard deal got closed. Is done. Now it's done in the sense that they got through that like beginning initial like, is this an antitrust type situation? So now they can actually buy it. Like this is now they can actually exchange the cash to bring it in house and all that. But Phil Spencer, which I kind of like the guy, he kind of gives it to us straight for the most part, and he said don't expect any quote unquote surprise drops, meaning don't expect a Modern Warfare 3 at Christmas or anything like that. Here it is, it's free, take it. So, but he did say in 2024, that's when we'll start seeing from Activision Blizzard. Go ahead, Dalan.
It would be a surprise drop to hear Activision or Blizzard suddenly say, you know what? We're not going to accept this deal. And they walk away. After all this fighting.
You know what? We change our mind. You giving us way more than our company has evaluated us. We don't want that. We don't want that. All right. The other one, this one's for you, Dalan. Far Cry 7 and a multiplayer version of a Far Cry as in quote-unquote extract-based shooter is coming. It's this is according to Insider Gaming. They say it's going to be set in a fictional Alaska. The game has been in development for several years and has changed its scope several times. So I don't know. I don't know how close we are to this, but they're working on it. They're doing something.
So my thing is, I haven't actually played through any of the Far Cry games. I've touched base on most of them, but I've never actually played through any of them. But my concern is how they kept switching the script on themselves and doing like little rewrites for the whole game. This is one of those types of developments that concerns me of whether or not it's going to be put together properly by the time they have an end product.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're like this extraction-based shooter. We have one of those. It's called Rainbow Six Extraction, which didn't do as great as they wanted it to.
There you go.
So it's still a concern just listening to this happen. It's 2 lines. It's 2 lines on this paper, and the entire thing concerns me.
Let me see. I'm gonna count it. I'm gonna count it out. Then I'll tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 words, and changed its scope several times. So it's we'll see. But I think that might be a part of the iterative process, right, of video games over time. But that you're trying to find the fun. You're trying to find the fun. So good luck to them on finding the fun.
I just hope they don't end up in development hell like Crackdown did.
Or Prince of Persia remake. I know you don't like me to bring that up, Dalan,
different type of development. That's development purgatory.
Purgatory. So tomorrow Xbox is gonna have a partner preview stream. That's Wednesday at 10 a.m. Wario64 says they're gonna be showing off Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Alan Wake 2, which I'm kind of hyped about, Ark Survival Ascended, Dungeons of Hinterberg, and more. Which just to quickly mention, there is I gotta get around to that Alan Wake like experience on Fortnite. I've never really played Fortnite, but the fact that they have an Alan Wake experience type of thing sounds pretty cool to me. Apparently, it's like a 20-minute thing, recap of the first game. I want to tinker with it. I'm gonna mess with it. Next thing that we have on here, this one's for you. Quick. Go ahead, Dalan. Go ahead.
I just want to take a step back. Why did Dungeons of Hinterberg show up on your list?
That's streaming.
Really
I'm not. That's just what Wario said. That's just what Wario said.
No, I'm not.
Why are you? Well, tell me about it. Dan. You know a little bit something about it. You're gonna tune in.
It looks like a little 3D action adventure game, so I might actually dip into it. I know there's an announcement trailer out there. It's like 1 minute long, so I'm gonna check it out after we're done.
I mean, they did say so tomorrow, Wednesday. This is gonna be trailer after trailer after trailer. I think you one of the Tina Amini, who does the shows for Xbox. She basically said no talking heads, no nothing, just trailer after trailer after trailer. So if you guys are hyped for that, don't expect them to be like chopping it up and talking.
It's a sizzle reel.
It's just sizzles after sizzles after sizzles. This next one's for Luis. Faze Clan. We were talking about valuations, right, Dalan? They were valuated at $725 million last year, but they just sold for 18.5. So that's kind of a big drop off. From what I understand, Faze Clan is these guys that did like little videos. They got famous during like 2009's Modern Warfare 2 kind of, and they did like little trick shots and little quick videos, but over time they've kind of grown, and apparently they were kind of valued, but the market basically said, we're going to give you 18.5, which, by the way, I'll take $18.5 million, all right? I don't care what my valuation was before. But, Luis, what do you make of this, sir? The fact that these mans kind of were, like, sold for relatively nothing. It's still a lot of money, right? But compared to what they were valued at.
No, I mean, in the grand scheme of things for Faze and what they used to be, that really is nothing, actually. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me, honestly. The writing's been on the wall with these guys for a while. Pretty much like as soon as they went public, their share price dropped like instantly, and it's been dropping. It hasn't seen an increase for forever.
Yeah.
But they've been going through, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but it's I guess not that recently.
So please educate us, Luis, a little bit on it.
Going through like just some scandals, drama, basically. Not only have they been sort of, one of which is they signed a creator to Faze Clan, and then the owners of the company, well, the ex-owners of the company, but the original owners, who are still part of Faze Clan, basically started trash talking her, saying like she doesn't belong here, she's not part of the culture, blah blah, this that. So that, like, as soon as she was announced, they basically hazed her out of the company.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just this weird sort of dynamic where the original creators of Faze Clan ended up selling off the company to like kind of just big wig exec suit and tie kind of people that don't really have any idea how the gaming space works. So the company has been slowly dying since they sold it, and they're still kind of involved in trying to buy it back a little bit. So I'm wondering if this selling point is them buying it back. But I this is all I've heard of it, just looking at it on the rundown. So I have no idea.
Yeah, man.
I'm suddenly thinking they should just let it die.
I mean, part of it is like you buy it on the cheap, and it's like we're gonna bring it back. We're the original creators. We're gonna do it right this time, right? There could be some potential appeal to that. But for me, this reminds me. There was a show. I wish they had like picked it up for a second season, but there was a show called Players. I think it was called Players on Paramount Plus. It's all about like these, how these guys live in a house and they're creators and they compete in StarCraft and all this other stuff, and it's like this is the kind of stuff that show touches on, which is kind of nice. It was kind of nice. If you guys haven't checked that out, I know they didn't pick it up for a second season, but it's out there. This next one I thought was kind of interesting because VGC, who we kind of link to or we kind of talk about pretty regularly, I think they dropped the ball a little bit. They were basically saying this from VGC: Hideo Kojima isn't mentioned in the new credits for Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, according to players who have the compilation early. And then our favorite people from Twitter, Luis, readers added context. As said in the article, these quote-unquote new credits are for the, quote, rappers for each game, and, quote, i.e. specific to the collection supporting work. Kojima was not involved with it, hence his or any of the original staff's absence. The game's original credits are left intact. So it's one of those things where, like, VGC, we got to look at you a little more closely, man. But basically saying that there's credits for the port of the collection, but within the games, Kojima is still in there, right? But what do you make of this, Dalan? Make of this little interesting little situation?
Well, when it comes to the porting of the game, I understand why they wouldn't actually want to include credits for people that were not involved. But as long as Kojima's name is forevermore attached to these games in some capacity, just as an example, for the original Metal Gear Solid, if they still have the part where Psycho Mantis is running around, the screen goes black, and you see Kojima's name in the corner, that's it. That's all I need.
You just need his name in the corner.
You just need his name in the corner. We know he's involved, or at least he was involved. I understand that he hasn't actually really touched the games since the early part of Phantom Pain, but the fact is that he is the reason that these games exist. There's no reason to not have his name somewhere in one of the rolling credits.
Yeah,
he better be in one of the rolling credits.
Phantom Pain, by the way, that game crashed at the very beginning. There's a part where you're at a hospital and running up some stairs. It crashed. Never went back. So I gotta go back. I gotta go back to that game at some point. I'm sure they fixed it.
The hospital. You never escaped
I never escaped the hospital.
You ran the wrong way and broke the game.
It crashed, man. It crashed and I never went back. But at some point, one of these days, I promise I will go back to it. The next thing, we did mention it a little bit earlier, but Skull Island, where Rise of Kong is the King Kong game that the internet has been more than happy to crap on for the last week or so. We're getting a few more details coming out of it. It was a game that was made in a year by overworked developers, and you know there's a quote from Save a Click. Thank you, Save a Click. The Verge via Save a Click, they said publisher Game Mill was very restrictive and only allowed 1 year for the dev team to work on the game, which caused them to crunch. And if you guys seen the videos of it, it's super rough, man. It's super rough. I don't know if Lee said it on wax. He might have said it off wax, but I remember him saying kind of like, it's like, why is this a fun thing to shit on these people or whatever? It's like, it's the internet. They're assholes. But we do have a little bit of background as to why the quality isn't as big as it should be, right? But Luis, what do you make of this, man? Is this surprising that they kind of worked on this for a year and this is what they have for us?
No. I mean, that's not anywhere near that. Well, I don't know how long it is or what the scope of the game was, but it doesn't seem like there was enough time for sure. What I had said was that basically, like, my thought process is the only reason we're talking about this game is because it looks like shit and apparently it plays like shit. So why are we even bringing attention to it? Like, why is it part of the news cycle, right? Let's just move on and talk about interesting stuff. But
in a way that isn't interesting. I know the internet is kind of built that way. We're drumming up controversy, but in a way that's kind of interesting, right? That it's like, damn, this game came out. The one funny thing that came out of the internet, I'm like, it's a complete scam. It's like, how is it a scam? How is it a scam? Just don't buy it. What scam are you guys talking about? Yeah. That one was a funny thing. Sorry, but I might have stepped on your lines there, Liz. My bad. Anything else, I guess? What? I might have stepped on your lines as far as,
I mean, I don't really know what else to add to this, man. It's like, cool, I guess this isn't surprising either, right? Yeah. Like, there obviously something went wrong. There was some decisions that were made, and I guess it was time, budget. Maybe some of it had to do with they had to crunch even harder because it didn't have enough people to work on it, or they didn't get the budget for that. I don't know, but. I guess, I mean, sometimes shitty games are made, man. I've made some of them myself.
Shitty games are made.
Sometimes it happens like that. I mean, this is very much like a Ubisoft kind of thing, right? Maybe that's what happens with Ubisoft and the Uno games are like, you have a month and a half to crunch this Monopoly game out, and it's like, these motherfuckers don't care about Monopoly or Uno, man.
Well, that makes more sense to me in that way. Like, like when I mentioned I worked on stuff where I'm like, I'm not really that proud of it. Basically, but it's because of limitations from the publisher or the client or whatever. Like, they're forcing you to do it a specific way. I don't know if this is what that was like, if there's like it's a companion piece to a game, a show, whatever, a movie.
What is
this a game?
Because there's the Monsters show that's coming out, right? It includes
Game. There is already a Monster show out.
It's already out. Whatever it is, but maybe that's what it was. They were somehow tying it, but not successfully. I don't think, because we're over here like we're the ones tying it together. But if they were trying to tie it together to the show or whatever, they're probably like, don't even think about that. Don't think about that game over there. Dan, what do you think, sir? What do you make of this little kerfuffle?
Well, I think with very little production time placed against this, obviously that was a detriment right off the bat. But the fact is the part of the reason that they showed up in the whole news cycle is simply because of the IP itself. Because King Kong's been around since 1940 something, maybe 1930, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
But they took this IP, gave it 1 year and said, let's not give them time to work on it. Let's minimize their budget and let's drop a game anyway and see if we can cash in on this. Just because it's called Skull Island, which is loosely based on the animated TV show, which is loosely based on the movie that's loosely based on the Universal series.
Okay. Yeah.
The fact is that, King Kong was not treated very kindly. It's the same thing that happened to Alien Colonial Marines. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
because when that game was
they've been disrespecting Alien for a long time, man.
Yes, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Aliens is a huge franchise. And they said, all right, we're going to give you this big budget. We want you to make this great game for us. Gearbox said, all right, let's go make Borderlands instead, though.
Let's use that money. Let's use some of that cash to work on Borderlands 3, or was it the pre-sequel or something like that? Some kind of thing, right?
The fact is that it didn't get allocated towards the IP that they wanted that money to go towards. And whoever got hold of Skull
Island.
Yeah. Whoever got hold of that said, all right, we want to make this game. The people that was funding them said, no, we're not going to give you time. We're not going to give you money. Do what you want. But you have 1 year.
And it's funny. There has been a decent King Kong game, like when the 360 launched. I don't know if you guys played that game. I don't know how well it holds up. Probably doesn't hold up that well. But that game was actually pretty good. And it was a launch 360 title, King Kong game, and it came out with I think the Peter Jackson movie came out at the time. But that was actually a decent game. Yeah, and that was actually a decent game. Wait, what's this called? I don't think it was just called King Kong. Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Oh, Peter Jackson's King Kong. The one with Jack Black. That's what
So the movie, the movie was the movie, but the game was actually pretty decent. I feel so. Yeah, it's pretty rough, man. Whatever happened here, I'm sure there's gonna be a bigger, deep dive or something, right? Where they're like, what happened? Why did you guys do this? But anyways, it's out there. It's don't.
Why? I'm sorry, wrong game.
Don't buy it, I guess. So we have Doug Bowser. He did an inverse interview, and they kind of asked him about Switch 2.0 maybe in 2024. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but now we have a goal from Bowser saying that, quote, our goal is to minimize the dip you typically see in the last year of one cycle and the beginning of another. So I feel like we have talked about it before, but there's been little dips as far as how much the Switch is selling, quarter after quarter. And so I think it's one of those things where before it completely we're only selling 100 copies of the Switch, we're gonna drop the next version, right? So, and I think that would probably be in 2024 that the quarters have dropped enough over time. But what do you make of this, Luis, as far as Doug Bowser's? I like how his name's Bowser though. That's always pretty cool to see the Doug Bowser's an executive at Nintendo. What do you make of this, sir? That he's kind of we'll drop it soon.
That is not. Why would he even say this? Is this something that consumers want to hear? This is not interesting to me at all.
Okay.
So, no. Yeah. I mean, if
that's
anything,
why you have a yes question mark.
If anything, it just gives no, because I was thinking it might have been something else.
Okay.
And I'll say what I thought it was.
Sure.
But yeah, if anything, it just kind of gives us an idea of when to expect the Switch 2.0. But it's okay, so you're just gonna hold out as long as possible, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I had thought was, which I thought was interesting and a good thing, was that he was referring to performance. That is our goal is to minimize the dip in performance as we're transitioning into the higher hardware. And I was so this means the Switch 2.0 is actually going to be pretty good performance wise, but apparently it's it's
a sales thing. It's a sales thing. It's a sales tactic. We don't want our cash flow to go down too low. So that's when
Because
we'll
they
drop
might have
it.
to sell to Microsoft.
That's when we'll drop it. That's when we'll... Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. But no, Nintendo, dude, since the very beginning, since that puke green portable screen, they've been trying to use off-the-shelf parts since the very beginning, dude. They want to make a profit day one that they launch, you know? So it's one of those, like, they're not worried about no experience dip, man. They're just like, okay, when do we drop this before we stop not making that much money? You know? So, Dalan, what do you make of this, sir?
I make this as a statement that I quoted about a year or two ago when the OLED was announced. And we actually had that piece of news where they said, are we ever going to get a 2.0 Switch? And they gave us a resounding, probably not. And my statement was, watch, they're going to hold out until their original Switch is about to die off. And then lo and behold, there's a Switch 2 because they want to create renewed interest.
Well, yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time. And here we are.
Well, look, and this man is just min-maxing it, right? He's basically trying to min-max. It's like, okay, it's going to dip enough to, like, let's get the 2 in here. And then it goes up again. Then the dip goes back up again. So they're trying to definitely min-max, like, the sales and interest, like what you were saying. So we'll get it, man.
I just wanted it on wax that I said this back then.
I mean, it's just, you know, it's logical, Dalan. The next thing, Nintendo accounts are supposed to be constant during the inevitable quote-unquote transition. This is according to IGN. As rumors of Nintendo's next-gen console grow ever louder, the boss of Nintendo of America has pointed to the Nintendo account as a constant during the inevitable quote-unquote transition. Nintendo is expected to launch its next-generation console at some point in 2024, with the Switch showing its age at 6.5 years old. And older than that, because like I said, these are off-the-shelf parts, man, that whatever's in the Switch was probably available in 2015 or something like that, you know, and they're like, that's cheap enough for us to throw into this thing. Yeah, so it's kind of funny that, I mean, but we've had these Nintendo accounts. It's been the same one through... I don't know if it's since like DSi or whatever it is, or 3DS or whatever, but we've had these accounts, right? Or do you think this is a new wrinkle on it that they're saying this, that it's going to be, you know, an constant, inevitable transition? Yeah, a constant that you're going to have the Nintendo account. What do you think they're saying, I guess?
Well, I recall there being a whole kerfuffle between the 3DS and the
Wii U? Wii U or...
Was it Wii U? I just remember that. What was before? It was before the Switch. It was the 3DS. When you had your account on the 3DS, you had, what was the name of the? There was a whole type of Wii thing, or not Wii. What are those called? I suddenly forgot the names of those things.
The eShop,
the little guys with big heads.
Me?
Oh, yeah. Pikmin. Mies, yeah, the Mies.
Yeah, the Mies. They had the Mii shop. Everybody was using that Mii music from the Mii world that you had. Everybody talked about it because they closed down that part of the store because they were transitioning from one system to the next. And yes, they let you keep your account, but you lost a bunch of other shit that went with it.
Yeah.
And that's just going to keep happening.
Okay.
Even though you get to keep your account, you keep your Nintendo name. The more we transition, the more you lose. You go from the 3DS to the Switch if you want, but there's going to be all those games that you can't get anymore. So you got to hold on to your old system. And there was a point where everybody was struggling to actually download every single one of their games to their 3DS. And I wish to God Dale was on this mic right now, because he did.
So I think maybe that's what it is. I would want to hope that this is a positive, that they're basically saying, because it's kind of like when from PlayStation to PlayStation 5, right, or Xbox, mostly Xbox does a really good job of this, that you can go all the way back to the OG Xbox, and if you own those games going all the way back, you can still kind of play it through emulation on your Xbox Series X, right? But Nintendo's been rough at it, PlayStation's been rough at it, but PlayStation has been okay the last couple cycles, right? PS4 to PS5, if you owned it on PS4, you can for sure mostly play it on your PS5. Nintendo has been extra rough about this kind of stuff, right? So I hope, but at the same time, when it's really like two switches duct taped together to make a 2.0, why not? Why wouldn't all your shit like come across, right, and be a constant? But maybe that's what it is.
And I'll just hook up my Switch TV, my little Switch screen to my Ionic, and I'll have myself a new dashboard.
Okay, there you go. We'll see, but we'll see. We'll take it as a positive, right, Dalan? Take it as a positive that Nintendo's thinking about us for once. Maybe we'll see. For once. We'll move on to what you've been playing, Luis. What you been playing, man? I know I put in a little Warzone The Haunting. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that because we haven't
for real.
we haven't tinkered
Sure,
on
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's Warzone. I don't know if you guys knew this. This is not necessarily a new event. It's new to this Warzone, but they did it last year, where essentially the resurgence mode, where you come back after you die, and like it's more than one life.
I like it. Yeah, I like that.
But the difference here is that when you die for the first time, you will then drop in as a zombie, and the entire map is loaded with zombies.
Okay.
I remember that.
As a zombie, you can go around and kill other operators, and then they'll
And
drop
don't you have like
these,
powers as a zombie? You have
yeah,
like
you have
certain
like
powers
you have
as
like a
zombies.
mega jump. So if you guys played the boys
Okay. Yeah.
thing event, it's basically that same jump, but like as a zombie, you take no fall damage at all. I think you can be in the gas for, if not forever, at least longer. But yeah, you'll take down an operator, and then they'll drop like an item. If you collect 4 of them, then you like take the syringe and drop back in as a human. So it could get kind of interesting, wacky, like especially towards the final circle where there's like 3 people alive, but then there's like 20 zombies still. So it can still kind of go either way.
Okay, it becomes a shit show, like it does a lot of times when you survive at the end. Yeah. Okay.
So
nice.
yeah, got one win on the zombie mode, and then just one regular kind of resurgence win the last week. I haven't played since I think like Wednesday or Thursday, but yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, I think it's still going on, and then they have like these sort of mini bosses inside of the map. If you want to just kind of ignore the Warzone battle, you'll go into these boss battles where like it's basically a bullet sponge kind of boss scenario. You go into a portal. Yeah. And then shoot, I think one of them's like the butcher. You go into a portal, there's zombies everywhere, but as you're fighting the zombies, you have to also like kill him. Yeah. And then if you kill him, he'll drop a shit ton of loot, and you could pick that up and get out of there.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's fun. And I mean, they have the typical, like they did last year, where if you go into a loot box randomly, eventually it might just give you a jump scare. Yeah. Like a scary image with some scary sound. Like,
so this mode, it sounds familiar. Like I might have played this mode.
You
before.
did play
this before.
We played this mode last
So
year.
what's the new, I guess, wrinkle? What's new about it this time? Or
that's what I mean. It's pretty much similar. It's pretty much the same. It's just the battle pass is different. It's a different map. It's different maps. They cycle them in and out. And all the maps in this like zombie haunting mode, they're all at night, so it's it's different, it's darker. They kind of changed the map up a bit. Okay. But it's cool. I mean, it's fun.
All right, nice. Anything else you've been playing, Luis, or that's kind of the
just
main
typical
thing?
Got my Jing Liu pull on Honkai Star Rail. I was telling Dalan about it yesterday. So, saved myself a few
He said,
$100.
I saved myself money. He took you all of 2 weeks, and you had 2 days left.
Honkai Star Rail. Are you? What did it drop in recently on a console, right? On PlayStation or something?
PS5.
Yeah, but you don't play it through there. You haven't booted it up on there.
I can't because they don't let you switch servers. So it's a different character when I go on PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you started on, that's what you got to stick with. The same thing happened with Genshin Impact. I started on PlayStation, then I found out it was on PC, and I tried to go to PC. They were like, "Oh no, you have to start a new character." I'm like, "Nope, going back to PlayStation."
I guess I'm stuck on my phone now.
If I were on the same server, like because they have Asia, North America, whatever. I think when I started my account on because I just have VPN on all the time, for whatever reason, the iPad was like, "Oh, you belong in Asia," and I wasn't even paying attention. I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." Click, create account. But on PlayStation, it does not let you switch your server. It defaults to North America. So if I were on a North American server, my account would transfer fine.
Yeah, okay.
But I can't change it.
Damn it, Honkai Star Rail. That's it. That's what you played, at least. I'll get into kind of what I've been playing.
That's his game, Carlos.
Yeah, I picked up. I did pick up both Spider-Man. Well, I picked up Spider-Man 2. We talked about it last week. That's the game I will buy. And Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I got through GameFly, get a little bit cheaper, right? And I was more hyped about Spider-Man 2. And boy, does that game impress! That intro scene is kind of amazing. I know you've seen it. I hope it's not too spoilery, but it's basically you're battling. Anything. Oh damn! It's a battle. It's a big battle. It's a James Bond beginning of the movie. Big old scene. I will say there's like a big drop off in like video quality. I think, you know how you have the performance and the fidelity mode that you can choose between, and they even have 120 hertz mode, which my TV does. But I'm kind of like, I think I've said it before on the podcast, but to me, I go full fidelity. Oh, I know it's running at 30. Oh, I understand, but I want to see all the prettiness. And that game looks pretty damn beautiful. When you put it to performance, though, it gets pretty rough, man. It gets pretty rough, but once I try to get my trophies, I'm going to switch it to that. It plays beautifully. Right off the bat, you get like the character switching option. So they basically, they drop you into the world and you kind of know what it is, and it's Spider-Man, and there's a comfort level. It's not, the ratings aren't as high as Mario, but for me it is. In my heart, it kind of is, I feel.
In my heart
of hearts, I feel. But we'll see. I mean, I got to play more of this Spider-Man 2. I just played through the intro. Pop that day one trophy. I know that's weird. I know my brain is broken, but I literally pick up the game to like, let me pop that first trophy, and then let me get back to what else I've been playing. I'll get back to it at some point. Then the other thing that I tried, of course, is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. That's a delightful game. I think that's what Dale said one time on the podcast. It's very delightful, but in co-op, it's pretty rough, man. And I know Lisa said it off wax for sure, but maybe on wax as well, that he's like, I'm done playing co-op games like that, and I'm going to keep trying. But it always reminds me, it was me, my daughter, and my wife. This is one of the games that I forced her on it. And, she's like, you're going to play this. We're going to play Super Mario Brothers. And we did. And it's a cute game. She picked Yoshi. She loves Yoshi. My favorite part, of course, is I got the elephant little guy, jumped on Yoshi, and Yoshi's carrying her around. She's like, get off of me. The elephant is too big. It's too huge. But we lasted all of 45 minutes before everyone rage quit. They were like, I am done. Even me, I was kind of getting stuck in little areas where they were running ahead. And for sure, they play it at a different pace, right? They're not, well, my daughter's a little bit more of a gamer, right? But my wife definitely is not. So she doesn't know the run plus jump, that you use the same finger, right?
It's not ingrained in her thumb.
It's really not, man. She's either running or jumping. She's doing one or the other. She is not doing both, where you know what I'm saying? Like you roll your thumb that way. So it's definitely what this game. I'm playing solo, man. I'm playing solo, but it is pretty cool. We were just talking about how the internet blows up over random shit. The little flowers talking. I was like, and Kotaku did an article. This is how you turn off the flowers talking. Like, nah, they're just bullshitting. They do get kind of annoying. They do get kind of annoying when the plants are like, ooh, that's interesting. I'm like, shut up. So I might go into the settings, shut up the flowers. It's cool, man. It's really cool. The game definitely, you get different badges, I guess. So you get little different power-ups. Like you can set up a badge to like, my hat will like, when you're jumping down, it's like a little parachute or whatever. Or you have like a forward jump, so you can wall jump and like jump forward. So you can pick different little badges. So it definitely gives you more of a you can use modifications to kind of tinker with how you're gonna play the levels. So that's kind of cool because you're hunting down these badges, right, to get different movesets. So I'm kind of liking it. And I like that the Wonder Flower is like a trippy. We just took drugs right now, and we're on drugs for a moment during this Mario level until you catch the other drug and you come down from your high. Maybe a euphemism, maybe not. I don't know. That's what it looks like to me. But I'm going to keep playing it in one-player mode. It's so far, I'm having fun with it. And other than that, I'm just I got myself the Mortal Kombat 1 trophies that I was going to get. Annoying as fuck to get those trophies in that game, man. Because it's like, you're really like, go through 10 towers of this, do that, and every single time it's like loading. Not only that, but I went through one of the towers right at the end cutscene. My console went offline for a second for whatever reason. I had to redo that tower because it didn't like give me the credit even after I beat the final boss. So trophies in Mortal Kombat 1, annoying as shit. That's the number one. On Assassin's Creed Mirage, I'm getting the trophies on that. I think I'm like 90% or 80%. They're kind of good. They're actually like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm seeing areas of the map, which are my favorite type of trophies. I'm going to areas of the map that I would not normally go to. Like I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, now I can get to it that way, or I can upgrade this, or I can pickpocket more people and do all that. So the AC Mirage, definitely the trophies are there, which is funny. Like I think I mentioned last week, first time in years that I beat Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it's probably the first time and the first Assassin's Creed that I will have platinum. So it's doing something right. And even and what happened? Go ahead.
What was the last Assassin's Creed that you did beat?
I'm trying to think. I don't know, man. I know 2. Brotherhood.
Maybe.
Brotherhood, maybe. Yeah, it's been years. I think I've dipped into all of them, and the last one I was tinkering with might have been Origins, I think. But yeah,
you didn't play Valhalla?
No, it's hanging around. I don't know when I'll ever get around to it, but I definitely.
I know Luis was playing Odyssey for a while.
Oh, Odyssey. I think actually no. Yeah, I think Odyssey is the last one that I was kind of tinkering with, but for whatever reason, the fact that this is like, for a lack of a better term, bite-sized Assassin's Creed, it's for me. It's for me. It's for me. So go ahead, Dalan.
I will ask the main story. How long would you say it took you to actually beat the main story?
If you're critical pathing, 10 hours, man. 10, 11 hours, 12. It definitely bites. Remember I was saying I was like, this feels like a small Assassin's Creed, and you're like, have you opened up everything? I was like, I've opened up a lot of shit, and I can get a feeling for the scope of it. This is not it's still big, right? It's a big open world, but it's not Odyssey. It's not Valhalla. It's not these other ones that's come out. But it's funny. I don't know. It didn't make a big splash, right? I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about it or too much. It's been out for about a month, right? More than a month or so. But definitely end of the year conversations. I don't even know if I put it that high up there. I think it's a pleasant experience. It's a pleasant 10-hour experience, fun trophies. There's other games that will probably be up there, but it'll definitely get, we do the wacky awards, right? It'll be a wacky award for sure. I think I could predict. Anything on that, Dalan?
No, not for that game.
Okay.
You got anything else for yourself?
One day with you, Dalan. One day with you. We're doing good time. We're doing good time on the podcast, I feel. Dalan, what about you, man? We'll end it with you on what you've been playing, sir.
And that thought of Game of the Year, I was going to start talking about Gotham Knights for a minute, but my Game of the Year, even though I know I talked about it earlier, it doesn't matter if it's low quality, if the game is fun, I will keep going back. And Vampire Survivors was definitely up there. It might honestly be my Game of the Year just because of how fun it is for me. It is very much Castlevania, 4-player couch co-op, all the wacky things that you could pick up. At some point, I was playing, it was me, my wife, and the homie Ricky, and we were on there playing the game, and we were just trying to get some money, get across the map, but there is this one character that will turn experience into money, and money equals experience because we got a specific card for it. There were so many things dying on the screen and so much flashing going on. We could not see the screen, and the frames dropped from 30 to maybe like 5 frames per second.
That game runs at 30. I would think it's 60, man.
Probably.
But you're saying it dipped. You're saying it dipped.
But when it was happening to this, you had no frames.
There was no frames.
We were just trying to get across this tiny bridge. We were not gonna make it. That game was crashing as we spoke.
They're building it, man. They're building it at the time.
And there's this moment in the game where you can collect a gold leaf, and it'll like start creating more gold out of the enemies, and it'll give you a little counter at the bottom of how much gold you collected. The more you collect, the bigger the numbers get. At some point, the numbers were so big it covered the entire screen, and we could not see where we were going.
Reasonable.
We were breaking the game with how much fun it was.
But you said
at some point I paused it and quit out.
You put game tape solved on here, but is that game tape solvable? I thought it was just like an endless mode. It's basically endless.
No, there are actually bosses in the game, and we beat every single boss. We unlocked all the characters. We basically platinumed it with the exception of one thing. I have to go kill 100,000 enemies with one character, and as soon as I do that, I technically won't have a reason to go back, but the game is so fun. I'm going to go back anyway.
Yeah, you have fun with it. Now, you said platinum. It's on PlayStation? On the Plus Supreme?
No, it is. I think it is on PlayStation.
Okay,
it might
but
be
not
on
free,
I don't know.
But not free.
But it's free on the Xbox Game Pass. That's where you really want to play it right now. And that game is fun.
I still gotta mess with it, man. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. I gotta mess with it. What else? We've been playing another one as well, right?
Yeah, we have been playing Gotham Knights. Yeah. And I know you don't want to really do the side stuff until after you do the main stories, but I've gone almost nowhere in that main story, and I'm doing the side quests, and I'm having fun with them side quests. For a person who is essentially a fan of Batman, I say essentially because I do not know everything about Batman. Those people out there who are Batman fanatics, but for the stuff that I do know, there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs to this whole game. It is basically the Museum of Batman. Interactive edition.
Have we?
And I love running.
And we've been playing. We played like a couple missions. I remember we played for like an hour, and I was like, "Damn, it's 2 a.m., man. I gotta take a nap." And you're like, "Really? We're done?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're done, man. It's 2 a.m., sir." But the little amount that we play, and we'll beat it, Dalan. We'll beat it and stuff. I think. But it's like it's a pretty high quality game. Have you gotten to the point of this is why people were not high on it? Because to me, it's like. It plays pretty good. It plays like a Gotham Knight type of game or Batman Arkham Knight game. And the cutscenes are really nice. The story's pretty interesting. I mean, it's as much as they killed Batman. You're not playing as Batman, right? I think they do a decent job story-wise, gameplay-wise. Have you gotten to the point where it's like, oh, this is why people weren't as high on it as, they could have been or would have been?
There are just certain things that they put in the game that they could have did more with, but it's kind of like it fell flat. Much like the Batmobile in the third Batman Arkham game. Yeah. They put too much Batmobile and you relied on that Batmobile. Yeah. In this one, they gave you motorcycles and they put no reliance on that motorcycle.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Yeah. The open world is definitely not like it's fine, right? Like it's like there's nothing really there. Like you're just going to the next mission, right?
Yeah. There's not enough there, and eventually it's just like, you know what? I don't even care about the wonder of the motorcycle has worn off.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm like, let me just use my contraption to go to the next spot. Anything else on that, Dalan? Or what do you think? We'll call it a show? Or what?
Hey, man, I'm definitely going to play this Batman game because even though it's not the best Batman game, it's still a good Batman.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Even though I fell through the floor with one of my characters already.
That's just any game, man. Any game can wacky stuff happens, right? But look, the good thing is it's on both Game Pass and on Plus Supreme on PlayStation Extra or Premium, whatever it is. So give it a shot for people that did, and this is like a perfect like. Maybe that's what it is, Dalan. We didn't pay full price either, so we're like, it's not great.
But it's not. That pay full price, they're like, this was not polished enough.
Yeah. So, but for quote unquote free, you remember you're paying a subscription for it, and playing it co-op. It's a pretty decent experience. It's pretty nice. It's a nice
especially for people who know the stories of these characters.
So know the stories indeed. That's been a show. Carlos Macias, the master of what again, Dalan? The speaking spell? Is that what you...
yes, the master of the speaking spell. You remember.
It was rough, man. It was rough, but we got through it. Dalan Kirkwood, the man up in the mountains. Thank you for joining us, sir.
And as per usual.
As per usual. And also Mr. Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. Thank you, sir. See you guys next time. Latest.